Hi, I'm Hagen. I am a lecturer and sole indie developer. I've been working with games for quite some time now. It kind of all started in 2009. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, tried IT, and the textbooks just killed me. I hated it. And I played a lot of video games, like a lot of online games. And so I found a bunch of little programs and stuff, and I'd worked with Game Maker before, and I thought, well, let's see, what else there is. I started looking into making RPGs, and one of the first programs I learned to use was RPG Maker VX Ace, very specific. I made a little RPG called Animord, and it was for a media project for year 11 and 12. Kind of during that time when I was trying to find what I wanted to do, and I was trying to find like all these kind of development programs, I stumbled across UDK, or the Unreal Development Kit. One of the things that I found was that they had a competition on their homepage called Make Something Unreal. And one of the blurbs for one of the games said that it was a hybrid between a first-person shooter and a tower defense, and those were two of my favorite genres like ever. So I was super excited, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna download this. And I tried it, and it was awesome. Like, I had so much fun with it. I showed it to a friend of mine, and we played it for so many hours. It was quite ridiculous. Spent like a couple of weeks trying to optimize our layouts and talk strategies and everything, and that was, the first ever Sanctum demo. After that, I didn't really keep in touch too much because I was too busy just trying to find out what game development was. And so I didn't really know about the Unreal forums back then, so I didn't browse them too much. So one day my friend just all of a sudden out of the blue said, hey, you remember that Sanctum demo you showed me? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's coming out on Steam. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, there's a full game coming out. And I was like, what? He bought a 2-pack, because back then it was 2-player co-op. He gifted one copy to me, and we played that game for so long. And I jumped onto the Steam forums then, because it was a lot easier to just jump into Steam forums. And so I would talk to all of the founders, Marcus, Anton, and Oscar and all that. And I just kept on sending them questions and kept talking about their game and how much I loved it. Yeah, that conversation went on for a very long time. Sort of bled into 2010, 11, 12, just continuing through. During 2011, I had already attended an event called Computer Games Boot Camp. Basically every year they would just, host a bunch of talks and games, and you go there, make friends, play video games. It's pretty awesome. And the event organizer, Andrew, I was like, hey, there's this company that makes this really cool game. I was wondering if I could just show it off in front of everyone. And he was all for it. And I emailed Anton. I'm like, hey Anton, do you want me to showcase your game? To 800 to 1,000 people. And he's like, okay. And so he even gave me a few keys, 4 Sanctum to give away. And I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And we ended up doing a live Skype call, Q&A with Oscar at the time, and it was pretty successful. But I was nervous the whole time. I was shaking. I'm like, why did they let me do this? I'm nobody. I'm just some fanboy. Why are you giving me so much, power and ability to show off your game? You don't even really know me. It was kind of exciting. And then 2012, I did the same thing again.
Hagen's someone who's been coming to CGBC for many years. Motivated young man, talented young man. Please get him out and make him feel welcome.
You can also purchase, we can't purchase on Amazon at the moment, but you can purchase it on eBay. There is a physical edition of this. It's about $15, basically the same price on Steam, but you get extra game. So
under the late 2012, I get an email from Anton looking for people, a select group of people to work on something. I have to sign an NDA. And I was like, well, that's terrifying, but also exciting. So sure. A couple of other people were in on that as well. Sort of a small community of us. Tiger Hawkins, who was the world record holder for all of the maps. He actually won a competition, got a map designed based on what he wanted. And he was a pretty cool guy to chat to about that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it was a couple of us got thrown in to this kind of secret project, and we were super excited. And it turns out the secret project was Sanctum 2. So the biggest thing about the Sanctum 2, us getting into the beta, was that we waited a few weeks between signing the NDAs and getting the first build. And we had a place where we could submit bugs and feedback and stuff like that. Biggest thing that happened, and kind of one of the biggest moments for me, was the fact that until that point, I'd just been kind of a big fan. When I booted the game up for the first time, I had always set my Steam name, like my online name, to just my first name. So whenever you see Hagen, that's just my name for everything, usually. And when I booted up the game for the first time and I was looking at the character list, I was like, all right, cool, we've got, you know, Sky from the first game. We've got her sister Sweet, like, who was kind of revealed through an Easter egg, which is kind of cool. We have Simo, who's like an awesome robot. And then we have, I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know, they named this last character, like the last name, after Tiger Hawkins, like, you know, got the last name Hawkins. The first name, I thought they just used your Steam name, and I was like, oh, that's cool, they can, like, you know, it's a bit immersive, takes your Steam name, put it as the character name, because the name was Hagen Hawkins. Turns out that's not the case at all, because I immediately logged out, changed my name to some weird characters to try and break it, because I'm like, cool, the first thing I get to try and break, and I logged back in, and the name wasn't changed. It was still Hagen Hawkins, and I'm like, oh, there must be a bug, like, maybe I'll report that. But then I sent a message to Tiger Hawkins at the time, and I'm like, hey, you know, isn't it cool that they named a character after you? And he's like, yeah, isn't it cool they did it to you as well? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, it's Hagen Hawkins. And I think at that point, I just like dead froze for a good like hour. And for the first 15 minutes, I was speechless. I couldn't say or like do anything. And then for the next 45 minutes, I just remember crying. I was so happy. And it was just something that I'd never expected from this. Like, all I did was just show off their game and, you know, talk to them a bunch and all that kind of stuff. I never felt like I did anything that kind of deserved that level of like, you know, recognition. It was a surreal moment. And it was definitely something that kind of helped, because I was in a pretty dark place during that time. I was I was suffering from pretty bad chronic depression, and, you know, there was some really dark times where things came pretty close. Them letting me showcase, and then the whole naming a character after me really brought me back from the brink. And it was kind of around that time when I was showcasing their game, and when Sanctum 2, when I got to beta tests, that was kind of when I knew, like when it clicked, that I wanted to make video games. Like that was kind of when it all locked in place as like, yes, this is definitely the career path I want to take. The game launched, it was really successful. We got credited, which was kind of cool. And sort of moving forward from there, I started to do a bachelor's degree of game design. And I finished that in 3 years and then moved on to doing a master's of games. I didn't really find work. The Australian industry isn't great for finding work. Actually, if you're like a graduate, it's all kind of very difficult, especially because around the time that I was graduating, all the big studios started shutting down, which kind of sucked. You know, it's a very close-knit community, so it's a good like community once you're like really part of it. Just a bit of a struggle to get in. So I've just been teaching since I finished my master's. I'm a lecturer for games, programming, and design. The goal going forward is to work in a studio, because I haven't had studio experience yet. I've been working on a few like smaller projects, like my own projects. And, you know, I recently did the UE4 Jam, which was really cool. Made a little kind of blacksmithing Overcooked style game. And kind of like my goal for the future is to just, work in a studio. For the entire time that I've known the Coffee Stain Studio people, I've always kind of like, you know, had this like big aspiration and dream to work here. And it's always been this kind of cute little like, oh, what if I got off a job here? That'd be so cool. You know, because I would accept it in a heartbeat. Like I'd fly over, I'd drop everything and just come here and help I'd help try and give back a little bit of what they gave me, because I mean, this studio and their games kind of saved my life, and I don't think I'll ever be able to fully repay that, but I kind of want a chance to. So hopefully, maybe one day, we'll see. So around the time that Sanctum 2 kind of was wrapping up for me and I was starting my bachelor's degree, that was when Goat Simulator launched. Like they did the whole like, you know, they were working on Goat Sim and then they launched that. The transition from like Sanctum 2 to Goat Sim for me was really difficult at the time, because I just didn't have a lot of time to invest in helping them with Goat Sim. So because of my bachelor's degree, like, you know, studying game design and stuff, I kind of had to move away, and I pulled away for a bit, kind of went like a bit off the grid. Just kind of didn't really keep track of much just because I was so like distracted and busy. Like a couple of years go by and I'm just, you know, constantly checking in every now and then, being like, hey, how's things going, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, Jace's video showed up, the community manager, you know, new community manager for Coffee Stain and like all this other stuff. And then there was an announcement that you were working on a new game. And this was around the time that I finished my master's degree, so I was like, oh, perfect time to jump back into it. I immediately just started like tracking everything that was going on, like every announcement, I'd have every notification turned on. And when the name for the game, Satisfactory, was revealed, I immediately went to Reddit and I was like, okay, well there's no like satisfactory game subreddit yet. Rack and I took over, RackLT, who is also a moderator on the Discord. When the Discord server went live, like when people were actually able to join it, it just got flooded with people spamming. And everyone was super excited because, you know, Satisfactory is a pretty cool game. One of the first things that I said to Jace, because he secretly let me in a bit early, I said to him, hey, do you need a moderator? And he's like, we might. And I was like, okay. And then the server got flooded and I'm like, hey Jace, you probably need a moderator. He's like, yes, save me. Yeah, I've been a moderator on there ever since. And then we've got a great team going with like Bane and Rack and Izu and all that. So it's really cool to have such a great like team to rely on for when things go kind of bad. Like we always have each other's backs and like decisions that we make together. And yeah, it's a good community. And I'm really happy to be kind of part of that, to help that grow. Subreddit kind of exploded initially, like we had a big burst of like people who joined. And then there was a massive spike when the train update hit. And right now the count is sitting at around 46,500, almost 47,000. So we're approaching like the 50,000 mark, which is insane to me because I remember getting so excited when we hit like the 10,000 mark and the 25,000 mark, and I'm like, there's no way we're gonna hit, you know, like the next like 10,000 mark, but we hit it. It's really great because we have a bunch of community members who just post basically everything from, you know, their factories to optimization strategies to floor plans. We even have some really cool community members who went out of their way to develop tools. So we have people who made like calculators and interactive maps and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see the community kind of be able to share all of this information. There's also the modding Discord, which is slowly kind of, we've got people putting content from the modding Discord onto the subreddit as well occasionally. So then we get like a little kind of cross bumping going on where people from the modding Discord who don't know about the Reddit will jump on the Reddit, and then vice versa with the Reddit people jumping on the modding Discord. So that's kind of cool to have that kind of cross-pollination. And it's really exciting to see some of the stuff that people are making, even if it's not, you know, completely finished yet. It's always great to see like works in progress, and the memes are great too. So
who's your favorite person in Coffee Stick?
Hannah.
What the fuck?